Let's get comfortable with free motion quilting. First step is to practice drawing on paper, a dry erase board, or Quilter's preview paper from Handi Quilter. Practice, practice, practice. One of the easiest designs to do is stippling. Notice how the stippling has the same density, the same shape. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Don't cross over the lines. Just continue practicing. Same density. Think of a shape. Think of a quarter or a nickel or a dime. Now let's move to the fabric. Notice how this shape is probably about the size of a nickel. And it's all very consistent. The density will stay the same. Move around, up and down, over, in and out. Don't cross the lines. The same shape and the same density as you quilt. You can't see that there's a row because it's going in and out and up and down and around. Same density. Notice no crossing of lines. Now let's move on to loops. Loop in and out, over and under. Same density. Now let's add a shape. Put a heart to it. Loop again, loop again. Let's add another shape, a star. Loop, 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 up and down, in and out. Let's add another shape. Let's put a leaf in it. So think of all the different quilts that you can quilt with hearts or stars or leaves, or add another shape that's comfortable. Now let's move to the fabric again. Loop, flip your loops. Flip, loop, flip. Notice the same loops are the same size. The density is the same. Creating a fill. Now let's add a heart to that. Loop, loop, and let's add another heart to that. Notice the heart's upside down. Loop, now we're creating stars. It's like a kindergarten star. As you do the star, count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out you go. Loop, loop, loop. Keep the density the same. Fill the area. Now let's create some leaves. There are all different ways to do leaves. Make them full. Fill the area. Create another leaf. Put a spine in it, if you choose, or not. Create the loops and keep the density the same. Now let's move on to spirals. As you go inside of the spiral, leave enough space to come out and quilt around. Spiral, spiral around, out. Use the spirals to travel to a new area. This is called echoing around. Go in, fill the area, echo back out, create a spiral, come in, out, go in and fill the areas, create spirals. This is a great fill for a lot of quilts. You can do little spirals or large. Create, go outside, spiral, echo around, echo, and do some more spirals. Now, let's try a new design with that. Let's call it, it's paisley. Same type of effect, just go in, make a teardrop, echo around it, use the echo to travel from one place to another. You can use 2 or 3 times to echo around that. larger ones, smaller ones. Now let's go to the fabric and try this. Remember, leave enough space as you go in so that you'll be able to get out and go to the next one. Echo, spiral, spiral around, echo, spiral, spiral out, echo around, create a new spiral. Fill in your area. Keep the density the same. If you choose to use large spirals for an overall quilt or small spirals for a fill. This makes great microfill. Now let's move on to the windy meander. Curl around out, inside, and spiral around. Notice how the echoing around helps me go from one place to another. It's that travel path. Drawing is so important to get that perfect design. This is a design that you can quilt large and small at the same time. So we can make some large windy meanders and small all in the same quilt. Echo around, create a new spiral, out, in, around, around again, and create a new one. Out, in, echo around, create a new one. Out, in, echo. There's your travel path, takes you right where you need to go to fill in the next area. In, out, echo, echo around to a new area. This is a fun design for an overall quilt. Look how small. We can do small ones, little tiny ones there. Now let's try feathers. Create your spine and then start creating teardrops. Make a little bed for that next one to lay in as you go across. They don't all have to be the same size. Now we're going to go the other direction. Notice that we drew from the right to the left, and now we're drawing from the left to the right. You'll have to find what direction works best for you. Now let's do the formal feather. Create a spine, put a feather on it, and then we create a teardrop, hook, retrace, hook back, hook, retrace, hook back, hook, retrace, hook back, hook, retrace, hook back. Now, I definitely can quilt better than I can draw. I do know that. So notice that as you practice, you will find the same thing. Practicing will make your quilting better. Again, hook, retrace, hook, retrace, hook, retrace and hook back, hook, retrace, hook back, hook, retrace and hook back, hook, retrace and hook back. Practice this one for a while and you'll feel really comfortable with it. Notice as the retrace did not go exactly over the top of the stitching, and there are some different spacings. One thing you can do is you can echo around this, and then you can fill in that little echo space with some stippling or some pebbling, and that will totally hide those goof ups, as we call them, that we made. Okay, let's go to the machine. Create a spine, teardrop, teardrop, teardrop. See that motion? Round those tops. Nice round. Bring it to the spine. You don't have to touch your spine. It's all up to you. Now we're going to go the other direction. Notice the longer ones here. You choose the length that you'd like yours to be. If you need to fill in an area, make your feathers longer. If you have a small area, then make small feathers. Notice that these feathers aren't touching the spine. Okay, now we're going to do our formal feathers. Create our spine, teardrop at the end, and then come back and create a teardrop. Come up and hook and then retrace. Now you want to put your machine in cruise at about 3 to 5%. This helps you walk back over the top of those little feathers. Make sure that as you walk back over the top of those feathers that you go down deep and make a good cleavage so that you've got a good defined feather. Retrace over the top, down deep in, and then hook back. Retrace, hook back. This is not a fast process while you're stitching over the top of those feathers. You want to make sure that you stitch as accurate as you can. This is practice. Put on lots of fabric and practice. Let's finish our last feather, retrace down, retrace our spine. You could break your thread and then go back to the beginning, or you could retrace your spine. There's our next hook. Retrace slowly and then create the feather. Hook, retrace slowly, and create the feather. It's very important to put this in cruise. The machine will help guide it along. It'll help just follow those stitches. Hook, retrace slowly, create that deep cleavage. Notice the feathers are different lengths, and you can do that. If you have an area that you need to fill in, make the feather as long as you need it to be to fill in the area. We're coming up to the end. Going to join in with that first teardrop that we made. Retrace, make a nice cleavage there, put another hook. Now let's just echo back. If you fill in those echoes, it'll really make your feathers pop too. Use your hopping foot as a guide for the echoing.